Whether fact or fiction, it still makes for some great TV. Hi, I'm Emily and welcome to MsMojo. Today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 facts The Crown Season 3 got right and wrong.
I wonder what's more dull, having to sit through one of those meetings or having to watch it on television.
For this list, we're looking at historical facts that the third season of the hit Netflix series took liberties with and which ones were right on the money.
Put on a show. The Crown doesn't do that.
Number 10. Prince Philip and the moon landing. Wrong. Like the majority of folks in 1969, the royals were closely following the adventures of Apollo 11.
Look back on Apollo 11.
Extraordinary.
The show depicts this moment in time as one where Prince Philip especially becomes obsessed with the moon landing, and its heroes Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Michael Collins, and later falls into a funk after meeting these astronauts and realizing they are quite ordinary people.
I expected them to be giants, gods. In reality, they were just three little men, pale-faced with colds.
The show also claims this is the time period in which Philip sought faith in Christianity. But there's no evidence of this, other than the actual palace visit happening in real life. Actor Tobias Mingus, who plays Prince Philip on the show, has admitted such in an interview with The Wrap. Also, Philip had already taken faith in Christianity before the moon landing ever occurred.
She saw that something was missing in her youngest child, her only son. Faith.
Number 9. The Queen visits the Duke of Windsor. Right. In the show, Queen Elizabeth spontaneously decides to visit her dying uncle, the Duke of Windsor, and he apologizes for abdicating the throne back in 1936, a decision that brought Elizabeth into the royal line of succession as her father, King George VI, was made king.
Forgive me.
Thank you.
It's a heartwarming moment and a touching look inside royal life, and it's true, to a degree. First off, there's no such thing as a spontaneous moment in royal life, as it's highly scheduled. So while yes, she did visit her uncle, it was absolutely arranged. Further, historian Hugo Vickers called the idea of the Duke apologizing for abdicating the throne, quote, absurd. So the visit was far less of an emotional affair than shown in the series.
There was no need for that.
Number 8. Winston Churchill. Wrong. A favorite moment in Season 3 for a lot of people was the Queen's visit to an ailing Winston Churchill after he had a stroke.
Dear Winston.
Your Majesty.
She confides her admiration for him, thanks him for his service and leadership during World War II, and then kisses him on the head before leaving. Once again, it's an emotional, heartwarming scene, but this time it's mostly baloney. While the Queen and Churchill were close, and she did attend his funeral, it's unlikely she visited him after the stroke as he was incoherent at the time. Also, the idea that she kissed him on the head is pure poetic license, and such a stretch that one biographer in an interview with the Daily Express called it, quote, pure schmaltz. Number 7. Princess Margaret's affair and divorce. Right. The show depicts Princess Margaret's affair with the much younger Roddy Llewellyn as one of the reasons her marriage with Lord Snowdon came to an end.
I thought things had moved on.
Well, they've moved on all right. He's moved on. On to the next one.
In the aftermath, Llewellyn abandons Margaret, Lord Snowdon quickly remarries, and under tremendous distress, Margaret overdoses on sleeping pills.
Am I going to get a ticking off?
That hadn't been my intention. Though perhaps I should.
While it's highly dramatic, most of what is depicted on the show is correct. It's just the timeline that's out of order. For instance, while Margaret's marriage did come to an end, it wasn't at this moment that she overdosed. Rather, it was after Llewellyn traveled to Turkey without her. Also, her overdose wasn't believed to be a suicide attempt as the show implies, but rather a toxic buildup from years of use.
No need to humor me.
Number 6. Princess Margaret eases US-UK relations. Wrong. While it makes for great TV, the idea that Princess Margaret somehow managed to win a bailout for the UK from US President Lyndon Johnson is completely overblown.
But this is a diplomatic mission of the highest sensitivity. And I would urge you, for once, to play things by the book.
Yes, she did travel to the US with her then-husband Lord Snowdon in the mid-60s to meet with Johnson, and she was trying to bring about change. But the fraught relationship between President Johnson and UK Prime Minister Wilson continued long after her visit. Also, her trip to the US wasn't a total success as the show indicates, while with Princess Margaret receiving a lot of negative press at the time for her lavish spending habits while abroad.
Bravo.
Number 5. The Queen and the Aberfan Disaster. Right. Episode 3 covers the tragic events of the Aberfan disaster, where a large amount of coal slurry splashed down on the small village of Aberfan from a nearby mining site.
Under the desk, all of you, quickly! Please get under the desk!
It also depicts Queen Elizabeth's regret at not visiting this national emergency sooner, and instead sending representatives in her place.
One person has been conspicuously absent from Aberfan, and that is our Queen. The scandalous lack of care and interest, one can only assume it is that, by our head of state, is symptomatic of a lack of care from the traditional establishment.
The show is correct in its depiction, as the Queen deeply regretted not going sooner to Aberfan, and she looks back on her delayed action as one of her biggest mistakes.
The people of Aberfan deserved a prompt response.
But it should also be noted that she didn't delay her trip out of cruelty or apathy, but rather she didn't want her presence in the area to distract from the active rescue efforts that were ongoing at the time.
The very last thing emergency and rescue services need when they're working against the clock is a Queen turning up.
Number 4. Prince Charles confides in the Duke of Windsor. Wrong. In the show, Prince Charles declares his love for Camilla Shand, the future Duchess of Cornwall, to his great-uncle the Duke of Windsor, and engages with the Duke about the trials of one day becoming king in a series of letters.
He writes to me, and I to him. He likes this girl, Camilla.
Later, the Duke gives these letters to Charles's mother, Queen Elizabeth, due to the sensitive subject matter within.
Take the letters, read them.
I can't do that. It's a private correspondence.
They concern the future of the crown and shed light on the soul not only of a future king, but also your son.
But did it really go down like this in real life? Not really. While Charles and the Duke were said to be close, there is no evidence that Charles ever talked about his personal relationships with the Duke, or that they were in regular correspondence about his life through letters. While they may have written each other on occasion, no such letters were given to the Queen. It's more likely that these details were added to give dramatic weight to Charles's love for Camilla.
Don't ask. It's all a bit messy. But the long and the short of it is, Camilla is now free, and I'd like to snap her up.
Number 3. Secret documentary. Right. It's easy to gather from the Netflix series that members of the royal family are not the most extroverted sort and value their privacy.
Well, you captured your best side, at least.
So surely they didn't let a BBC documentary crew into their homes and into their lives back in the late 1960s to record their everyday actions.
It's a documentary film. Tony, do you want to...
It means no acting, no artifice, just the real thing. Like one of those wildlife films.
Well, think again, because this one's right. A documentary was made on the royals, aptly named Royal Family, and aired on national TV in 1969. So why haven't we heard of it until now? Well, the Queen later regretted the decision, bought the copyright to the doc, and for all intents and purposes banned it from ever airing again.
Oh, no, my hair looks frightful.
It can only be viewed with special permission and a fee at BBC headquarters. Number 2. Camilla Shand. Wrong. Royal life isn't all sunshine and rainbows, you know. Sometimes duty trumps feeling.
And all that loneliness having vanished. It was all rather miraculous.
And nowhere is this better illustrated than in Charles' courtship of Camilla. Charles clearly loved her, so much so that they later married in 2005, but they originally ended up apart after a series of unfortunate circumstances, like Prince Charles joining the Navy and Camilla marrying Andrew Parker Bowles. The show suggests that it was the royal family who conspired to keep the two apart, but historians are not buying it.
We need to talk to you about your brother.
Which one? I have 3.
Charles.
Go on.
Specifically, the suitability of his match with Camilla Shand.
In reality, while the Queen wasn't enthusiastic about Charles and Camilla, she did not intervene.
Such a fool.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Queen's art historian is a spy. Right. We were on the edge of our seats with all the espionage intrigue in episode 1. Is the Prime Minister a Russian spy?
I remember thinking then, we'd better keep an eye on that one.
Is there a spy within Buckingham Palace?
We don't have a Russian spy in Downing Street.
No. But it seems we do have one in Buckingham Palace.
It was like an episode penned by spy master John le Carré, and shockingly, most of it's true. No, not the part about the Prime Minister. That much is bollocks, as they say across the pond. But it is true that the Queen's art historian Antony Blunt was passing secrets to the Russians during World War II, and even for a bit after.
Yes, whilst on a trade mission to Moscow. The KGB got him. Nonsense, I know.
I wouldn't dismiss them so quickly.
It was only after retiring from MI5 and joining the Queen's staff that Blunt was later exposed as one of the Cambridge Five, an infamous group of Soviet spies.
I'm afraid I can now confirm that the surveyor of the Queen's pictures, Sir Anthony Blunt, was the 4th man in the Cambridge spy ring.
Most incredible of all, he ended up keeping his job.
I might choke on my words.
This season of The Crown was so dramatic, and I was constantly shocked every time I researched the history and found out what was true. Anyway, which fact surprised you the most? Let me know on Twitter at Emily A. Brayton, and please subscribe to MsMojo.